The third video in this series is not a tutorial on how to do a DNA analysis, but it is about using the results from that analysis in telling a family story. My intent on this video is to keep the content in layman's terms so that all members of the family can follow along. Now, my first DNA analysis occurred in 2016 after taking a test with Ancestry.com. I compared my results against my proven family tree as shown here. Ancestry offers an autosomal DNA test, and the unit of measurement on these tests is called a centimorgan. The way to think about this measurement is like this. The more centimorgans you share with another individual, the closer you are genetically related to them. Generally speaking, DNA results require analysis. The amount of shared centimorgans only indicates possible relationships, with a few exceptions such as a parent-child relationship. Sometimes the analysis is easy, and other times it can be quite challenging. As an example, several years ago I received a close family match of 1,961 centimorgans. Possible relationships at this level could include a grandparent, a grandchild, aunt, uncle, niece or nephew, or a half-sibling. And in this case, it was a half-sibling from my father's first marriage, and the analysis was relatively easy to prove. Now, in this family tree, I show the broad results from that 2016 DNA analysis. There are three families shown here: the O'Connors, the Sebastians, and the Walkers. Multiple descendants have taken the DNA tests. All of these matches, shown in yellow, are connected to the Sebastian family. Those matches then either connect to the O'Connor family, which is shown in green, or the Walker family, which is shown in orange. The completed analysis confirmed information that I knew via traditional genealogy, but it did not shed any light on the identity of Thomas O'Connor. A second analysis was done in 2021. It had been several years since I looked into potential O'Connor DNA matches. And in the fall of 2021, several new potential matches appeared, and these matches showed promise. Of these new matches, I'm going to focus on one individual who is identified as RK. I share 139 centimorgans across 8 segments of DNA with RK. Now, because RK was a new match to me, I wanted to analyze their DNA results prior to any genealogical research. And this is an important step as it will focus my research. The methodology for analyzing the DNA is to triangulate the results. This simply means I am going to compare 3 samples at a time. I will compare my results with RK against known family members. And I follow this process against multiple individuals to continually narrow the results. The overall analysis contained dozens of matches. But for the purposes of this video, and to make it easier to follow, I've extracted several results for illustrative purposes. And for privacy, I've identified them by their given name only. Now, RK shows no genetic matches to anyone on my father's side of the family, so we know they are a maternal match. When looking at RK's matches, it becomes clear that they are not a genetic match to anyone on my maternal grandmother's side of the family, so we know it's about my maternal grandfather's side of the family. Of the 8 individuals shown here, 7 were previously known to me. The relationships that are stated here are their relationships to me. Sarah is my first cousin. She is a grandchild of Thomas James O'Connor and Helen Louise Bulger. And like me, she is a great-grandchild of Thomas O'Connor and Medea Sebastian. Marilyn is my mother's first cousin. She is a grandchild of Thomas O'Connor and Medea Sebastian. This would make her my first cousin once removed. Andrew is a half-second cousin. He's a great-grandchild of William Walker and Medea Sebastian. So RK matches to myself, Sarah, and Marilyn. But RK does not match to Andrew or any other Walker descendant. So the conclusion is, because RK does not match any member of the Walker family and only matches the Sebastian family when they are also O'Connor descendants, we can conclude that RK is connected only to the O'Connor family. So now I want to narrow that focus. And I start with a generational diagram. When comparing the shared centimorgans between myself, Sarah, and RK, the most recent common ancestor is located within one of the levels shown in this diagram. The full DNA analysis suggests that our genetic match is probably located at either the great-grandparent or the great-great-grandparent level. Put another way, the most likely scenario is that our shared DNA comes from our great-grandfather or one of his siblings, or from one or both of his parents. But there is an outside chance that the match could be at the third great-grandparent level. Now, when comparing the shared centimorgans between Marilyn and RK, the relationship becomes even more focused, because Marilyn is a much stronger genetic match to RK. Their results suggest a potential match on the great-grandparent level. In other words, our great-grandfather or one of his siblings. But there is an outside chance that the match could be from one of our great-grandfather's parents. So now that I've focused my research to two potential generations, I can make the following statements. RK is a descendant of either Thomas O'Connor's father or mother. However, it is highly probable that RK is a descendant of both. RK is more likely than not to be a descendant of either Thomas O'Connor or one of his siblings. Within the DNA analysis, there are other relevant samples that were considered. These other DNA matches are not shown on this diagram, but I want to discuss them briefly. These other individuals are genetic matches to myself, Sarah, Marilyn, and RK. And these matches share more centimorgans with RK than they do myself, Sarah, or Marilyn. In other words, these individuals are stronger genetic matches to RK. And some of these matches indicate a close family relationship. So it is possible that they may have first-hand knowledge on RK. So now, as I move into traditional genealogical research, this DNA analysis has allowed me to focus the research and hopefully break down the brick wall. And through those traditional methods, I am able to identify a potential name for RK. And that name is Raymond Klotz. He is a son of Hugo Klotz and Madeline O'Connor. Raymond's mother being an O'Connor fits with the DNA analysis. And according to the initial research, several clues are learned about Madeline. Now, everything is just a clue at this point because it hasn't been proven and it still needs to be researched further. She may have been born in Springfield or Chicopee Falls. She may have been born in the month of July, possibly in 1903, 1904, or 1906. And she appears to have been married twice, first to Joseph Patrick Flynn and second to Hugo A. Klotz. And here we have the marriage certificate between Joseph Patrick Flynn and Madeline Myrtle O'Connor. She was born in Springfield around 1903. Her parents are shown as Thomas O'Connor and Ruby Flint, the same names that were identified in my proof argument, where I concluded that my great-grandfather was married twice, first to Ruby Flint and second to Medea Sebastian. Now, this marriage record was obtained from a Flynn descendant. It is what we would call a derivative record, meaning a town clerk created it from the original record in their office, but it is not the original itself. Now, sometimes when these derivative records are created, typos will occur. The Thomas O'Connor shown here has a middle initial of F. This is incorrect as it should have been a J. My great-grandfather's full name is Thomas James O'Connor. And the brick wall here has been broken. And the information that flows fairly quickly. And along the way, I was able to speak to some of Madeline's descendants. Madeline was 11 when her father died. So she was old enough to have memories of him. Memories that she shared with some of her grandchildren. Thomas was a good man, and she clearly loved him. And Madeline passed down an oral history about her father. In that history, she tells the story of him dying after being struck by a train. And the oral history that was passed down through Madeline is the same story that was relayed through Lillian, Mary Ellen, and Thomas. So now that the brick wall has been broken, at this point, it's important to put the family dynamics at the time of Thomas's death into context. So we start with the oldest child, Madeline. She grew up in the O'Connor household of Chicopee Falls, where she resided with her grandfather, several uncles, and her aunt Nellie. Nellie became her primary caregiver when her father removed to Boston to work and support his daughter. Madeline's mother's family, the Flints, are also located nearby to where Madeline was living. So when Thomas died, it made sense for Madeline to stay in Chicopee Falls with the only family that she had ever known. Now, the three younger children, Lillian, Mary Ellen, and Thomas, were all too young to have memories of their biological father. And they all viewed William Walker as their dad, even after they learned that he was not their biological father. Like the three younger O'Connor children, William Walker had no memories of his mother, as she passed away when he was about 18 months old. William's younger sister passed away when he was 4. And about a year after Thomas O'Connor's death, and before William married Medea, his own father passed away. So it is entirely within William's character to have stepped in as a father figure for the three younger O'Connor children after the death of his friend Thomas. And he always thought of Thomas's children as his own. Now, as mentioned in the first video, Medea came from a blended family. Growing up, all of the Sebastian siblings were raised together, with no distinction between half-siblings and full siblings. And this likely influenced Medea's decision to raise her own children in the same manner that her mother did, in this case, as Walkers. So now that the brick wall has been broken down, in the final video, I'm going to retell the family history. And we'll combine what we now know about the 4 children, the oral history, and the documents and completed analysis.